If you can force your heart and nerve and sinew to serve your turn long after they are gone, and so hold on when there is nothing in you except the will which says to them, hold on. If you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings nor lose your common touch, if neither foes nor loving friends can hurt you, if all men count with you but not too much, if you fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, yours is the earth and everything in it, and which is more, you'll be a man, my son. Okay, hi guys, and welcome to the show. You're probably wondering why I'm smiling so much. Well, I'm very, very excited. This is an extremely special review today. No wristwatch check necessary. This is the limited edition Squale 30ATMOS to commemorate 60 years of the brand. A brand very close to my heart, as you guys know. So I'm going to walk around the neighborhood. It's a very cold day, but I gotta be honest, this is keeping me warm. I'm so excited. So without further ado, let's change perspectives, discuss the history, and get to know this very special watch. Christmas has started a little earlier for me because of this release right over here from Squale. Now, I should give a little bit of background to this very momentous release here. I'll try and contain my excitement. I feel like a giddy little schoolboy on Christmas morning unwrapping the presents, but honestly that's how I feel. So anyway, a little bit of background. So it's no secret I have been a fan of Squale, or Squale if you want to say it the French correct way, for many years, although now it is under Italian ownership, which we'll get into in just a moment. Squale means shark, and it's fitting for a brand that only makes dive watches. They're one of the most underrated and important smaller Swiss dive watch manufacturers with an incredible legacy. Anyone worth their salt who knows about dive watches will have an appreciation and respect for the wonderful heritage. So 2019 is a big year for the brand as they celebrate their 60th anniversary, and naturally they decided to make a few limited editions based on one of their earliest watch cases to commemorate this auspicious moment. So what makes them so great? Well, if we rewind a little bit, originally Squale was founded by Charles von Buren in Neuchâtel, Switzerland in 1946 as a manufacturer of watch cases and other components for watch brands. Originally, the Squale mark appeared on the watches as a symbol of the case's origins and a pride in its quality. This, of course, coincided with the boom not only in professional diving but recreational diving. Demand increased so much that during the 1960s and 70s, Squale provided cases for some of the most prestigious dive watch brands and organizations in the world, predominantly with the legendary 1521 case. And this was for brands like Dodane, BlancPain, Zinn, Tag Heuer, Doxa, and included in their list of achievements is, of course, making special editions for the Italian Air Forces, the Aeronautica Militare Italiana, and of course the elite Italian Navy diving Corps Marina Militare Italiana as well. And I believe later on they even went on to produce watches for the Italian police at some point. But the history is rich and deep and quite remarkable for such a small, relatively small brand. It's not a micro brand, they're a little bit bigger than that. So simultaneously, Von Buren began to produce their own range of professional diving watches under the Squale brand name. These watches were not marketed for jewelry shops or trying to be luxury or anything like that, but rather specialty diving stores. In 1974, Squale entered the watch market as an independent entity. During the following decades, thanks to its watches' impressive reliability, safety record, and international prestige, Squale sponsored a large number of international sports competitions and was worn by top divers, including Jacques Mayol. Sadly, however, following the industry's quartz crisis, Squale halted their production of mechanical watches in order to focus on quartz timepieces. Like many companies at the time, Squale began to fade from the international watch market. And after the retirement of Charles von Buren, there was no heir apparent. So the Maggi family, friends of the von Buren family and former distributors of von Buren / Squale watches, who are based in Italy, then purchased and saved the company from extinction. This is very important, I feel, because they are family friends of the von Buren founding family. It was just a wonderful, logical move. And this allowed the brand to be relaunched in 2010 and is now headquartered in Milan. But the watches are actually made in Grecin in the Jura Valley in Switzerland. In fact, there's a fantastic video by Nomon Watches, one of their authorized dealers. And they actually visited the factory, and you could see as well as their main offices in Milan, for that matter, and you can see all of their watches being made, and I urge you to check it out. And there's even surviving members of the von Buren family included in that video, so it's just wonderful to see the watches being made in Switzerland. And I think it's so important to see that, because it really solidifies and legitimizes this brand as one of my favorite Swiss-made dive watches, unequivocally. So back to the watch. Now, I must point out that in my last State of the Collection, I alluded to a watch I'm designing from scratch. This is not it. That's happening next year, which I've been working on for a few years now. I mean, yeah, it takes that long to make a watch, but so this is not that. This is just a very cool limited edition. So how did these watches come about? Well, back in 2017, I visited Squale in Switzerland. Very momentous occasion. In fact, I wore my 1521 the entire time. It was lovely to actually meet the people behind it. And we went through some of their archives. They have an extensive archive of watches that they worked on. It literally is a gold mine from the golden era of dive watches. I saw the original that this is based on. Now, the original was 34mm, I think. A little bit too small for modern standards. I loved the design, and I toyed with the idea of what are they going to do for the 60th anniversary? Well, I think they should really go with such an important design. And why is this particular watch so important? Well, it harkens back to the birth of dive watches as we know it. Also, I think highlights one of their most important collaborations with BlancPain. So while the 1521 has the 42mm case, that's 500 meters water resistant, with the distinctive 4 o'clock crown, without a shadow of doubt is one of their crowning achievements. Before that, there was this case, and this was supplied even as early as the 1950s, early 60s for Acualung and the Bathyscape style divers. Now, this was before BlancPain utilized the later 1521 case, of course. The Bathyscape derives its name from the submersible used in deep ocean exploration. In fact, I acquired a vintage one early this year, but then soon sold it on, because compared to the modern standards, it was indeed rather fragile, far too rare to risk wearing every day. And I also knew Squale were working on releasing this. I should say it's actually more like a re-release, really, if we're going to be more historically accurate. Now, despite being 34mm, this was pretty much the norm back in the day. You got to remember, even the Rolex Saabs and the early Omega divers were 39mm thereabouts. So while absolutely fine for me, this was decades before the ISO standards that were introduced in the 1990s. So Squale have done a wonderful thing here by bringing back this legend of the deep in a modern but not oversized scale. And this is something I definitely was pushing them, or advising them, or suggesting that they should do. And I'm so happy they've done this, because this really is a a sweet spot for most people. So this is the limited edition that sold out immediately with the date and a matte dial. And just like the 1521, they've decided to do a special no date version for me with a slightly more personalized dial. You'll see the difference, the different markers, and of course the different color there. And yeah, I'm just absolutely over the moon with this. So let's just discuss the scale very quickly. Now, they are exactly the same case. I didn't want to make any changes there because I really do think this case is absolute perfection. The bezel is 40 millimeters, although the case sits a little bit smaller at 39 millimeters, 48-ish lug to lug tip, and the height is around about 12 millimeters with a 22 millimeter lug width. This for me is the perfect ratio, and I think for many people it is. Now the case, as you can see, is solid stainless steel with a screw-in case back. The case back of this version slightly more different. Now mine might have slight differences to the final version because it is, as you can see there, not sure if it's zoom in, it's the very first one, and the limited edition has 60 years there. So you see 1959 to 2019, and also is numbered. Mine is a little bit more simple, just with the Shark and Wave logo that it, of course, is so synonymous with this incredible brand. The case is extremely faithful to the original. I think it perfectly captures and evokes the retro charm of the 1960s or late 50s. The highly ergonomic coinage flat bezel overhangs ever so slightly, so it's easy to get a grip, and it frames the sparsely marked insert that is a kind of gloss finish that surrounds the pronounced boxed sapphire crystal that very much mimics and kind of captures that vintagey feel as well. The lugs are quite flat with these kind of angular shapes that are just, they remind me of the tails of a Cadillac or something of the 1950s. There's a beautiful curve that arches over from tip to tip, a wonderful line there. What I like is that there's actual satin finish just under the bezel here to further accentuate this marvelous detail. The bezel insert itself is an ode to the past, using a unique glass insert and very much reminiscent of Bakelite, obviously the early Bakelite. However, this is a little bit more robust. And unlike the original, this is actually ratcheted, so we've got 120 clicks, unidirectional, very, very solid, no play. So they've done an outstanding job with that. So obviously when it comes to this version, I had two stipulations. I would like it no date. The second thing is I would like a more unique color to the dial. This, believe it or not, took absolute months of deliberation to find that right blue. I wanted a blue that they hadn't really done before. If you see, it's different to the Squale 1521 there. And the no date, I'm slightly obsessed with the Explorer. It is my favorite watch. However, this is probably going to surpass that. There's just something about the symmetry and the clean look of a no date dial. Also, by removing the date, if you see on this one, you see the date at 3. Well, I don't think it's that intrusive on that version. But it just brings back a balance. And in a way, this is even more faithful to the, with the exception of this sunburst dial, this layout is a little bit more faithful, you could say, to the original MC4 or the Bathyscape that were also no dates. Now, Squale have decided to go for Super-Luminova in an old radium color, generously applied in a faux tint that glows a very bright green, and therefore it has excellent orientation because of the numerals, obviously. They're very kind of puffy and three-dimensional. And I'm glad they haven't overdone the tint. It's not like, if you remember the 1957 Amigas that I reviewed, they went a bit overboard with the faux patina. The puffy look is also charmingly enhanced by the distortion of that domed sapphire. The baton hands are complemented with this faux patina, as well as the arrow-tipped seconds. That reaches really nicely to the periphery of the dial and precisely gives you a reading on that crisp white printed section with the seconds a minute track there. Now, if you look at the printing, you'll notice that there are numbered markings and arrows beside the larger loomed numerals at the 12, 3, 6 and 9, and it gives the watch a practicality and a functionality while not appearing too busy. One thing I did like about this particular version, the date, very subtle detail, is they've actually made the 60 a different color. Then we have the italicized signature style font at the 6th position with the name of the watch symmetrically placed below, and at the 12 we have the Von Buren logo. One of the biggest misconceptions about Squale is why, if you see on this version, why they sign it twice. Now, to understand this, they always put it at 6. To understand this, you have to look at their history. So, for example, on the BlancPain ones, they would have had Squale there because they made the case, and then they would have had BlancPain at the top. So whatever brand they're making the cases for, you'd have the brand and then Squale at the bottom. This is tradition, and I think it's important that they stick to this tradition. They're very adamant, and they made it abundantly clear that they always do this because it's part of that legacy. And I love the way they take pride, and they should do, because it's just an amazing story. So the double naming honors this incredible heritage. However, here we just see my initials, letting the wearer know that this enticing dial was designed and requested by me for the good gentry. The layout and color itself, the sunburst deep blue, changes sometimes from an Aegean to an indigo. Wow, just a whole range of blues. It's from, you can see there, it's almost black in some light, and then the AR coating further enhances it in various lights. So yeah, I'm really happy how it turned out. I went for a darker combination with the black bezel. I wanted to keep the black bezel this time because I wanted to make it as complementary to matching attire as possible, but at the same time still having a little bit of fun, a little bit of that vivid pizzazz that Squale is adored for. And also it just makes it a little bit more exceptional compared to the standard date. Well, I shouldn't say standard, there's nothing standard about it, but you know what I mean. And also there's only going to be 100 of these, I believe, whereas there's 150 of the date version. So at the 3 o'clock we have an unguarded screw down crown, very reminiscent of World War II era Fliegers, with a conical shape, very easy to grip and to use. It's a tad unusual compared to more contemporary crowns. Very ergonomic, just like the bezel. Works flawlessly. Pop it out there, you see it's hackable. It's really solid feeling, and I think it's complements the nostalgic aesthetic of the watch perfectly. Now, in keeping with the late 50s and early 60s, it comes on a strap. But this is no ordinary cheaply made affair. Squale never cut corners when it comes to their straps and their pairings, no matter if it's rubber or leather. Here we see an extremely well made, high quality sailcloth. This is very strong, durable style strap that tapers masterfully with a kind of gunmetal grey stitching. Itself is black with that marvelous checkered little pattern texture on it, and on the underside you can see there, made in Italy. Now, for some reason on mine it doesn't have it, but on the date version they have the little what do you call it, quick release bolt action thingies there. I'm not sure if they're going to do that on mine. I say again, this is the very first one. There might be slight differences to what you get or what you buy in the store, but no matter, I really enjoyed this strap. Keeps the weight of it down to 78 grams, so it sits very comfortably on the wrist. I love the polished sign buckle, and you even get a little sandblasted finish there. Again, marvelous attention to detail. Now inside, this is quite interesting. So the date version has the Celita, whereas mine has the ETA, and its height is probably the only thing that has remained unchanged from the original. It's pretty much the same. In fact, when I measured my manual wind little BlancPain Bathyscape it was the same height. So inside, this is the ever venerable automatic ETA 2824-2, has 25 joules running at 28,800 vibrations an hour, providing the mechanical reliability they're known for, and is further regulated at Squale in the factory in Switzerland to a better accuracy tolerance of about plus or minus 5 seconds a day before it leaves the factory. It has a 38-hour power reserve, hacking, and of course manual wind. I love the ETAs and the Solitas too. They're both accurate, affordable to maintain, easy to repair, and very, very dependable. Solid. I mean, you hear the phrase, they're a workhorse movement, and that's what they literally are. So let's talk a little bit about negatives. Well, it's a shame that they're not more widely available. And there's a big positive to that as well, which I'll talk about in just a moment. But I would love to see something like this, especially for such an important watch that they worked on, to be more widely available. Secondly, the 22mm lug width, I would have preferred 20, but again, they were working off the ratio in keeping with the original size. So I totally get it. I don't think it is at all detracting from the flow of the design for me. I just don't really have that many 22mm straps. So again, this is so really this is just preference. I struggle to find anything to complain about. Lastly, I would have loved to see drilled lug holes. But again, perhaps this is just my preference. I would have liked to see a fully loomed bezel. At 12, we have a loomed arrow. Yeah, it would have pushed up the price a little bit, but yeah, I would have just liked to see that. However, again, they're very minor things. I think they've created an absolute masterpiece here. So in conclusion, this is a Capo Lavoro. I think it's a future classic, and in many ways is even better than the BlancPain's own limited editions. I know I'm going to get a lot of flack for that, but hear me out. So BlancPain would not have been able to make the Bathyscape without the help of brands like Squale. So I feel it's right that they honor such a momentous anniversary with a watch like this. It's certainly more affordable and in many ways a truer tool watch to the roots of the original watches, rather than the kind of nonsensical luxury that modern BlancPain have become. And don't get me wrong, I adore BlancPain, but I feel this has a very similitude. This is a kind of unpretentious realism that very much, you feel the nostalgia of that era. It exudes the charm that first attracted me to the Bathyscape and to Squale as well. So, and of course you got the practical robustness. It's actually a 300-meter water-resistant capable diver. And the fact it is limited edition somewhat makes it, well, it definitely makes it feel more special. And I think it's actually a good investment, because compared to most divers in its class, you're not going to see many of these about. And I know it's vulgar to talk about money and about value and all of that, but knowing it's so rare will help protect its value retention, much to the annoyance of the easily offended watch snobs, which I think is just fantastic. And Squale does get given a hard time by those that simply do not know the history of dive watches or the brand, and they erroneously accuse Squale of being a homage brand. And while yes, they do some homages, they got to pay the bills, they've got to stay afloat. And if that allows them to make watches like this from their own prestigious legacy, then why not? But this is the real McCoy from all those years ago, born to live again in the modern age. This is one of the most distinctive and original dive watches in the entry to mid-range market right now. The quality is outstanding. Very few brands come this close at under $2,000. I really do mean that. The mastery of their case making is evident here. Absolutely, you can see it. What makes this watch, in my opinion, so successful, even beyond the 1521 there, is the fact that, and I see this a lot when I review very successful designs like the Submariner or particular Seamasters. It has a dressy elegance, but it makes it a great do-it-all watch, because while at the end of the day it can serve as a dive watch, it would look just as good suited and booted. It has that kind of versatility, and I think that always is a great sign of a truly exceptional watch. So ultimately, this is another home run by Squale, and when I received this, I was utterly speechless, and I still can't believe it. This is absolutely positively pure class. What more can I say? You know, I'm just gonna shut up, you guys. God, is this my new favorite watch? I think it is. One last thing, with these limited editions, you get a little plaque, and it's actually signed by Monique von Buren. So I just want to say a massive, massive thank you to Squale and to Andrea Maggi. So I think I'm going to frame this. So this is for that one. Yeah, let's take it back to the outro. I hope you've enjoyed this first exclusive look on this home run for Squale. Yeah, I can't believe it. You know, this is another amazing watch. Anyway, guys, let me know your thoughts, queries, comments, opinions, all the rest of it down below. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed it and found it useful, and hopefully you'll catch me back in the war room, not in the submarine, for the next one. Okay, guys, ciao.